Follow me, even if it costs everything. At dawn that day, the radio light flickered. Signal not received. A familiar message, but for some reason I stared at it longer than usual. I was a military doctor at a border outpost in North Hamgyong province. In air that smelled of blood and rusted iron, a person's life often narrowed to a single line of signal. I worked in internal medicine at a small military hospital in North Hamgyong. The hospital always smelled of cold air and blood. In winter the air in the corridors cracked like glass. In summer a damp mold smell seeped from the walls. Whenever wind slipped through the window gaps, the metal beds trembled. Patients pulled blankets up to their throats, and nurses held thermometers with gloved hands. Time moved slowly here. With every tick of the second hand, someone's breathing grew fainter. There were few doctors, and even fewer supplies. We boiled syringes and reused them. We washed bandages and hung them to dry. The stale smell of alcohol soaked every corridor. Each morning the same slogan rang out: "The medicine of the motherland is the glory of the people." The words echoed off the wall. The red paint had flaked so much that half the letters were already faded. Still, everyone had to recite it. If you didn't, your loyalty was questioned. If you hesitated, ideological inspection followed. I opened my mouth and repeated it, but my voice never carried to the end. Footsteps overlapped in the corridor. Security guards in boots, doctors in white coats, nurses walking softly. No one met anyone's eyes. Eyes were more dangerous than mouths. Avoiding each other's gaze was the safest courtesy. Around noon the generator died. When the power cut, the hospital stopped breathing. Windows froze. Medicines in the refrigerators warmed. A nurse came and whispered to me, "Doctor, the power restoration will be delayed." I nodded. "Prepare the lamps." She ran off. Only my footsteps remained in the corridor. At 2 in the afternoon, a stretcher rolled into the ward. A young man in uniform. His face was pale, his lips a shade of plum. With every exhale his chest heaved like it was fighting the air. I placed my stethoscope and heard crackles inside like tearing a wet cloth. His lungs were beyond help. The diagnosis was clear, but I couldn't write the word on the chart. Those 2 characters for terminal could as easily erase my name. I stopped my pen. My fingertips trembled. In the end I wrote under observation. Then I closed the chart. The wind was unusually strong that day. Windows rattled. Dust slipped through the glass. The patient's eyes opened a slit. He looked at me. Pupils without focus. "Comrade doctor, can I live?" I didn't answer. His hand groped the air and dropped onto the blanket. Anxiety crept in. The report had to say condition improving. In a country where you cannot record death, a doctor survives by lying. But lies crust on the fingertips like cold blood. At night the residue felt heavier. There was no fixed time to go home. Even when night duty ended, the lights never fully went out. In the doctor's dormitory, paper was taped over the window gaps. I sat beneath it and sorted charts. Each time the pen scraped the paper, it felt like I was recording a sin. Footsteps sounded in the corridor, then irregular. A knock, then a short silence. A nurse peered in through the crack. "Doctor, the patient in 312 is saying strange things." I put down my pen. "What kind of things?" "He's praying. Says God is calling him." The word froze the air. In the hospital, God was a word you did not pronounce. Hearing it was dangerous. Failing to report it made you an accomplice. I steadied my breath and said, "Delirium. It's common in terminal patients." She hesitated and withdrew. As her footsteps faded, the corridor grew quiet again. I stood up. I didn't fully know why. Only that I had to go. I picked up the chart with his name Yunte and walked to the ward. A dim bulb flickered at the end of the hall. I opened the door. Faint breathing threaded through the dark. His eyes were closed. I approached and placed the stethoscope. Irregular breaths. Intermittent breaks. A small whisper riding his breath. "The light shines in the dark." He stopped. My hand froze. I opened the chart on the desk. Name Kim Yunte. Birthplace Myeongchon. It was near where I had grown up. An old scene rose at once. My mother closing the curtains at night and reading the Bible. Children sitting in a circle, hands clasped. Among them, A boy watching my mother's lips with jet-black eyes. His name was Yunte. I couldn't breathe. The patient before me and the child in my memory overlapped into one. I sat down, covered my face with both hands. The wind howled outside. Windows clattered. The vibration reached into my chest. Slowly I stood, opened my desk. Under a pile of bandages lay a small book, a Bible with a torn cover. I took it out. Dry paper rasped under my fingertips. When I opened it, an old line came into focus. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The moment I read it, the air in the room seemed to hold still. The bulb went out. Darkness poured in. Sirens wailed outside. Black car lights swept across the window. Someone had reported us. I shut the Bible and slid it back into the drawer. But my fingers shook. And I knew, then, that everything breathing in this hospital, truth or lie, would someday be filed into a report and disappear. The sky outside was dull. No sunlight. Wind tapped the glass. The corridors still smelled of cold and antiseptic, but something in the air had shifted. People whispered. Nurses watched their steps. Someone had seen security cars idling by the hospital before dawn. I said nothing. Only the hand inside my pocket grew cold. Yunte worsened quickly. Each night his cough deepened, and blood-stained phlegm ringed the white pillow. Every time I listened, what reached my ear was not wind but death. The roiling in his lungs had left medicine behind. I knew it, yet I still closed his chart. A supply note came up. Medicines were out. The director said curtly, "That patient is for observation, not treatment." I lowered my head. Understood. The word was a salutation for survival. Compliance was another name for life. In the afternoon a nurse said carefully, "Doctor, the oxygen tank is empty." I held my breath. Spare tanks were for the ICU. The ICU had officers and cadres. Soldiers were always last. There should be one left in storage. Regulations say we can't use it. I met her eyes. "Bring it anyway." She hesitated, then nodded. The storage door was rusted. Metal bit into my skin when I grasped the handle. In the dark I found a tank. Dust lay thick on its surface. I hefted it. Heavier than its weight was the decision. As I walked the corridor, my footfalls sounded wrong. Someone might be watching. But I couldn't stop. When I opened his door, he looked up. His breathing was thin. "Comrade doctor." His voice was wind. "Do you still have that book?" My hand paused. "What book?" "The one your mother left you." Words failed. My heart sped. "Mother, and the forbidden book." Those words rolled in my mouth like stones. His lips trembled. "She still prays for you." I inhaled. The air weighed more than oxygen. The words unearthed a buried memory. My mother covering the window and whispering by candlelight. The tiny flame quivering in the dark. I'd thought I'd forgotten that light, but I'd only covered it for a while. I went to the window. Snow was falling. Wind blew flecks into the corridor. The Bible lay in my desk. I reached for it, then stopped. If I took it out now, everything might end. But his breath was growing weaker. In the end I opened the drawer. The book was old and yellowed. A corner of the cover was torn, but the letters remained. I opened it without thinking. One line caught my eye. "Truth is stronger than orders." I mouthed the words softly. The air in the room shifted. Wind stilled. Only breathing remained. Sirens outside. A black car stopped at the entrance. I shut the book. A nurse ran in. "Doctor, security is here." My hands moved on their own. I tucked the Bible into the white bandages. "Say nothing." She nodded. Footsteps drew near. The director led them. Black uniforms. Cold faces. When they paused in the corridor, I held my breath. One open door, and everything could spill out. But the door didn't open. They moved to another ward. Someone had reported, but someone else was the target. My body stiffened, then slackened. Relief and fear arrived together. That night I sat by Yunte's bed. He opened his eyes again. "Comrade doctor, run." "What are you saying?" "They suspect you. Someone reported you." I couldn't answer. This is his will. He turned toward the window. Snow kept falling. I held his hand. "If you leave, You won't come back. He smiled. Even so, truth goes everywhere. His voice was low but clear. I couldn't let go. As the night deepened, my fear turned. It was no longer flight, but decision. Near dawn I opened the window. Cold air surged in. Far off lay a river. White mist rose. Beyond it, an unnamed border. I stared at it for a long time. The director warned me, "Comrade Doctor, be careful. Ideology is more dangerous than drugs." I answered briefly, "Understood." But another line rose in my mind. There is something stronger than orders. After that I couldn't sleep. Walking the corridor, I felt footsteps follow mine. The director's eyes cut me. Daily nurses spoke less. People didn't look at me. And inside that neglect, I became a little freer. It was night. The generator died and darkness swallowed the hospital. The fluorescent lights flickered out. Snow blew past the window at the end of the corridor. Power was unstable. The air smelled faintly of cold briquettes. I sat at my desk. The Bible was in the drawer. The feel of thin paper still lingered on my fingers, warm and dangerous. That night Yunte could barely breathe. If the mask slipped, his lips turned blue. The oxygen gauge pointed to empty. I thought of the storage room again, but there were no tanks left. And now the security's eyes wrapped that hospital. A nurse entered. "Doctor, patrols are moving." "How far?" "To the north wing." "They'll be here soon." I looked at her. "Say nothing happened." She nodded, eyes wavering. The door shut. Footsteps faded. I walked back to his room. A faint line of light leaked through the door. Inside, coughing. When I came close, he opened his eyes with effort. "Comrade Doctor, you must go now." "What do you mean?" "They'll come for you." I couldn't answer. He pulled a worn paper from under his pillow. A hand-drawn map of the Tumen River, with the river, checkpoints, and a route marked in red. "Take this path. Across the river they're waiting." "I can't go." "Then you will die." His voice was small but firm. I stared at the paper. The red line trembled at my fingertip. That single line split my fate. Sirens cried outside. I shuddered. Through the window I saw the blink of black headlights at the hospital gate. "Now," he said, "leave the book." I shook my head. "It's my mother's." "Then you will die with it." His fingers gripped my wrist, cold to the touch. "I'll keep it." "You must live." I looked into his eyes. There was calm there, rare in the eyes of the dying. I took the Bible from the drawer and gave it to him. "Please, go." He smiled, faint but firm. I climbed onto the window frame. Wind hit hard. White breath broke in the air. Frozen ground below. My ankles ached, but I couldn't stop. I slipped away from the hospital. Moonlight pressed my shadow thin. Snow shattered underfoot. In the trees, the air changed. Branch shadows stretched long over the ice. I held my breath. Dogs barked far away. Whistles cut the dark. Patrols. The map in my hand was damp. My breath was ragged. A taste of iron rose from my lungs. But my feet kept moving. In my ear, his words echoed. "Truth goes everywhere." 30 re to the Tumen River. Wind bit my nose. Water sounded in the distance. The river was iced over, but black water ran beneath. I took off my shoes, set my foot to the edge. The ice cracked. The crack was thin, but too loud. "Stop!" The voice behind me. Flashlights ripped the dark. I turned. 3 soldiers, rifles raised. One approached. "Comrade Doctor, go back." I didn't move. "If you want to live, go back." His voice was young and trembling. I slowly raised my hands. "I can't." "It's an order." "There's something stronger than orders." He looked at me for a moment, then lowered his head. "I'm sorry." A shot cracked. Birds burst from the snow. The sound echoed across the river. A bullet shattered ice beside me. Water leapt up. I ducked by reflex. The ice split beneath me. One leg plunged through. Water rose to my thighs so cold it stopped my breath. I tried to pull free. The ice cut my wrist. They closed in. One grabbed my arm. Metal cuffs locked on. Cold iron touched bone. I lowered my head. Lights flickered across the water. The place they called freedom. The distance could not be crossed. The truck sped over the snowy road, tires sliding. Inside it was quiet. No one spoke. I clasped my hands. Moisture still clung to my fingers. The chill seeped to my heart. It was dawn when we reached the hospital. The building lay dark. The door opened. Cold air poured out. They hauled me down. In the corridor, the director and security stood with rigid faces. "Comrade Doctor, where were you?" the director asked. I said nothing. A man snatched the wet paper from my hand, the torn map, and sneered. "The Tumen, a fool's errand." I looked straight at him. In his eyes I saw not fear but resignation. My guilt was already decided. A sound at the far end of the corridor. A door swung open. A nurse ran. Yuntae stopped breathing. All eyes turned to her. I froze. A hand shoved my shoulder. "Move." I shook him off and ran. He lay on the bed, white-faced, a faint smile at his lips. Under his hand the Bible. The pages were damp as if soaked in water. I lifted it. On the edge of a page, a blurred line read, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." A hand clamped my shoulder. "What is this?" I didn't answer. I closed my eyes instead. And I saw his smile again. He was alive. No, what he believed was alive. The room's air dropped heavy. Outside, dawn bled into the sky. The clouds were ash. The snow kept falling. When they dragged me back to the truck, I looked over my shoulder. One hospital window stood open. Wind shook the curtain. Each flutter looked like a waving hand. I watched it until the last, and I understood. I had not failed to escape. I had failed to keep faith. That realization cut deeper than the cold wind. The interrogation room was cold. Walls wet with damp. A fluorescent tube buzzing overhead. My hands, cuffed to the steel chair, ached. Blood didn't flow. My fingers went numb. I kept my eyes down. Old blood stains marked the floor, cracked, rust brown. Someone's time, someone's end. The door opened. A security investigator in a black uniform entered. No expression. He moved like a machine. A file in his hand. He sat across from me. The chair squealed. The air grew heavier. "Comrade Doctor." His voice was low. "The book. Where did you get it?" I said nothing. Stared at the floor. He tapped the table with a finger-steady rhythm. "Answer." I have nothing to say. A small answer, but it fell with the weight of air. He spread the file, threw down a photo. The paper smelled damp. My desk drawer, and a Bible. "We found it." No need to hide. I raised my head. The book in the photo wasn't mine. Too clean, no worn edges. "That isn't my book." He tilted his head. "It came from your room. Someone planted it." "And why would anyone do that?" His smile was brief and cold. He lifted a Bible, slowly turned the pages, paper rasping. He read for a long time, then stopped. His hand trembled. His eyes wavered. "This verse," he said quietly. "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." My breath caught. The air stood still. He closed the book and was silent, the lamp buzzing. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. "My father read this book." I looked up. He looked at me, his eyes tired. "I was 12. He lowered his gaze. I reported him. Silence cut. I stared at him. His face set stiff. He pressed his lips with trembling fingers. "I did not know it was a sin." His voice was nearly a whisper. "He was executed." After that, the house was silence. My tongue froze. He no longer looked like a security officer. He looked like a man sentencing himself. He took a long breath. "This ends here." "What do you mean?" "In my report, insufficient evidence." I couldn't believe it. "You'll release me?" He nodded. "It breaks orders. But I must ask my father's forgiveness once." He unlocked the cuffs. Cold iron fell from my wrists. I felt blood returning. "Comrade Doctor, live. If you die, nothing changes." My throat moved, but no sound came. He stood, pressed the book to his chest with his eyes closed, and said softly, "I'll keep this." "You keep saving lives." His face was firm, and sad. I memorized it, the most human face in the dark. The door opened. Dim corridor light seeped in. I walked out slowly. My steps echoed my heart in the same rhythm. A window at the end. Snow falling. For a moment, relief brushed me. I would live. The thought didn't last. The director stood in the corridor, watching. His eyes were cold. "Comrade Doctor, Released? Yes. Lucky. His voice was hollow behind the words. Everyone's talking about you. Be careful. I lowered my head. His steps faded. Only my breath remained. Back in my office, a note lay on the desk in an unfamiliar hand. Leave the book to me. You keep saving lives. My fingers trembled at the short line. I folded it and slipped it into my pocket. That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling. The investigator's voice looped in my ear. My father read this book. The sentence wouldn't leave. I closed my eyes. Darkness settled. And in that darkness, there was light, weak, but sure. Morning returned the corridor to routine. Nurses stepped softly. Patients coughed. I walked among them as if nothing had happened. But inside, something had shifted. Fear didn't vanish. It wore a different face. Where smothered terror had been, a small, firm resolve took its place. I had to live. And I had to record. I opened the window. Cold air entered. Snow covered the yard. In the whiteness I saw his face again, and heard, "Truth goes everywhere." I closed my eyes. The iron chills still tingled at my fingertips. Freedom was distant. Surveillance was near. Strangely, after that day, I no longer wanted to run. The snow began to melt. Ice in the yard. Cracked soil showed through puddled water. It looked like spring, but the air stayed cold, tinged with iron. I walked the corridor every day. White walls, gray floors, expressionless faces, as if nothing had changed, while another season arrived inside me. Each night I heard his breath, the rough air slipping past the mask, and his last words, "Truth goes everywhere." The sentence rose in me like a cough. The more I pressed it down, the deeper it burrowed. The note from the investigator was still in my pocket. Leave the book to me. You keep saving lives. Every time I read it, something tightened in my chest. It was an order to save, but also a demand. Correct the lie. I did rounds with the chart board. Patients lay pale, their eyes dim. The director glanced at me and said nothing. His silence weighed more than surveillance. I stopped at the last bed. A young soldier, high fever, pneumonia. The diagnosis was obvious, terminal, but his chart said improving. A lie for the report. I picked up my pen. My hand shook. This line could drag me under again. I didn't stop. Terminal. Immediate transfer required. Ink bled. My heart hammered. My breath raced. For the first time in a long time, my hand felt like a doctor's hand. The door opened. The director entered. "What is this?" He held the chart. His face hardened. "Why write it like this?" "The report says improving," I answered quietly. "He's dying." "That is not your decision." "Change it as ordered." "I won't." "Comrade doctor, are you saying?" His voice rose. "This is anti-state. Disobeying orders." I raised my eyes. "Truth comes first." The air stopped. His face froze. "Say that again." "Truth comes first." He hit the desk. "Do you want to die?" "I already have." Silence fell, heavy as snow. He said nothing. Slowly he sat and spoke briefly. "You're finished as of today." That afternoon my name was erased from the rolls. A worn stethoscope remained on my desk. I picked it up. The cold metal felt oddly warm in my palm. I had little to pack: one notebook, a few bandages, and the wooden cross Yunte left me. Rough, but soft under the fingers. I hung it around my neck. Wind met me at the door. The sky hung low and gray smoke trailed over distant hills. I stopped. A white curtain fluttered in a hospital window like a hand waving goodbye. Tears came, neither hot nor cold. An old dam broke inside. I closed my eyes. His last smile. The investigator's trembling hands. My mother's whisper. They braided together in me. "Truth is stronger than orders." The words rang in my head. I turned my back on the hospital. The street lay empty. Snow began again. Footprints appeared, then faded. Their fading didn't scare me. A child sitting by the road looked up. "Mister, where are you going?" I paused. "I don't know." "Are you lost?" "No, I'm searching." "For what?" "Light." He tilted his head, not understanding. I smiled. The smile felt unfamiliar. By evening the sky flamed red. I climbed a small hill. Far off, a river. Ice loosened and flowed. Water spoke. I stood before it. Lights trembled across the bank. Still far, but not frightening. I took out my notebook, wrote his name Yunte, and below it, another line. Truth gives life. My hand didn't shake as I wrote. Wind flipped the pages. Names inside wavered: soldiers, nurses, vanished faces. I lifted my pen again for them. This is my prayer. A bell rang in the distance. Not a church bell in old foundries. Yet it sounded warm, as if someone called my name. I closed my eyes. The river smell touched my nose. A voice came from somewhere. Continue. Save lives. It was his voice. I opened my eyes. The sky had sunk to black, but a seam of light slid between clouds, brief, faint, undeniable. I lifted my head. In the wind, someone's prayer still went on. It wasn't words. It was life. And I was the one who had received it. I walked. Snow cracked underfoot. This time it wasn't escape. It was a return. In the dark, I drew my first deep breath, and whispered, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." When I spoke the line aloud, I became free. Years have passed. I now work at a small hospital in the south. Sunlight pours through the windows. A faint disinfectant smell lingers in the hall. Floors are clean. Patients laugh freely. The air is different here. Breathing is not a crime. Meeting someone's eyes isn't danger. Still, I cannot forget the air of the north, the smell, the silence, the gaze. When I open my clinic door, I hear the familiar question, "Doctor, will I be better today?" I smile. A little better each day. A simple comfort for them, a prayer for me. After work I often go to the roof. The evening sky burns red. Below, people walk freely, talking, laughing, singing. The sight is strangely beautiful. And I wonder, every time, how Yunte would have looked at this scene. There is still a book in my desk drawer. The cover is frayed, the corners are worn. The pages have yellowed, but the words inside live. Life is born from truth. The last sentence he left me, I read it every day. My fingertips tremble each time. Not from fear, but from being alive. Sometimes patients ask, "Doctor, why should people live?" I pause and answer, "Because of truth." They look puzzled. That's all right. One day they'll know truth outlasts language. At night I open the window. Wind comes in carrying the smell of farm memories, earth, smoke, the afterscent of prayer. I close my eyes. I hear him again. Continue. Save lives. His words still move my heart. I live by them, writing truth, saving lives, then writing again. In that rhythm, a day passes. Now I know faith remains as record, and record begets life. Truth cannot be suppressed. Orders fade, prayers remain. At dawn I touch the cross on my chest, the feel of wood carved by his fingers. Rough and warm. It is my uniform. A uniform of earth, a garment of conviction that will not decay. I whisper, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." Each time I speak it, somewhere another prayer blooms. And today again, I put on the white coat. It is my duty, and my faith. Because the act of saving life is, itself, the truth. Share the truth, like, subscribe, and keep the light spreading.